spend a little bit of time today talking about our plan as a city to deal with this issue that I think so many people have worked so long on. I used to work at the Bissell Center 25 years ago. And so I've been, in one way or another, working on this issue for 25 years. And that's too long, considering where we are today. And so many people have cried many tears, lost a lot of blood, a lot of sleep, and a lot of lives in our city while we've struggled to get our head around this, both as a community, as a city, as a province, and as a country. So I think it's important that the city of Edmonton be a leader in this regard. And to be a leader, we need a clear, comprehensive strategy, more now than we've ever needed one before. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. And that is essentially the principle that safe and affordable housing is the cornerstone of a vision for a healthy, inclusive, and smart city. In 2016, as was stated earlier, more than 48,000 renter households in Edmonton spent more than 30% of their income on their rent. Of those households, over 22,000 spent more than 50% of their income on their rent. And research that we're doing now, supported largely by the multicultural health brokers, tells us that there's a growing number of households, we don't know how many yet, but a growing number of households that are spending between 75 and 100% of their income on rent. So these numbers aren't just startling, they're unacceptable. And these are numbers that I think should be repeated in every single institution of faith, every community hall, every business lunchroom, every union hall, everywhere where people gather across the city, so that we truly know the pain that our people, our neighbors, our fellow citizens are struggling with. Parents that are deciding that they can't buy their children sufficient school supplies. They can't buy their children nutritious food, that they can't let their kids go to the zoo or to do these other things that other kids are doing because they're spending all of their money simply just on the roof to keep the rain off. So this is a question of well-being for the whole city, for every one of us. So those are just stats and words. So what we need to have is a plan. And the city is committed in spirit, in principle, and in action to increasing the supply of affordable housing and ensuring a range of housing options are located in every neighborhood of the city. Mike talked about the 16%. We want all of our neighborhoods to include 16% of the units to be affordable units. This is an aspiration that the City Council just passed. It's a target. 16% is that amount of housing that I talked about earlier that people are paying more than 30% of their income on. That's how many Edmontonian households are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. It is all of our responsibility. It is a truly inclusive city that has truly inclusive neighborhoods, and that is underneath the 16% policies. So that means that whether you live in the east side, in the west side, in the north side, in the south side, it is your responsibility to welcome people who need more affordable housing into your community. And that is the aspiration that City Council, in all of our political and ideological diversity, supported unanimously no more than a month ago. One of the things, the priorities that was named by Mike in his presentation, priority 2, was permanent supportive housing. We see now, not just in the River Valley surrounding the inner city and downtown, we see in the River Valley as it branches and fingers out into all areas of the city, homeless camps. My colleague, Councillor Scott McKeon, who I work on the housing initiative with, asked the question a number of years ago in 2015, how much money do we spend every year disassembling homeless camps? How many homeless camps are there in our River Valley? In 2015, I think the number was 915. 915 camps that our park rangers took apart. And those were spread all over Edmonton. It wasn't just an inner city problem, it was a south side problem, it was a north side problem, it was a west end and east side problem. So it's not just about affordable housing in all areas of the city. It's about permanent supportive housing in all areas of the city for people that are determined traditionally hard to house. Now, Russell, my friend Russell, spoke very brilliantly earlier about Ambrose Place. My visit to Ambrose Place earlier this year was probably one of the most moving experiences I've ever had as a person alive on the planet, not just as a politician or a housing advocate, to see the care that those staff members put into every day piecing back together the spirits of these human beings that are our fellow citizens who are among us now, hidden and broken. So Russell, you got a round of applause earlier, but on behalf of us, to you and all of your staff who work so hard every day to do the work you do, another round of applause. It is truly God's work that you do. So Ambrose Place is in Macaulay, which has its fair share of affordable and permanent supportive housing. Ambrose Place is not in South Edmonton. And so as a Southside politician, as a Southside councillor and a Southside resident, how dare I say to my neighbours, well, we need Ambrose Place by us. But I think that's the courage that is required of not just me, but of you. So those of you that live in areas of town where there is no permanent supportive housing, where it's easy to say, well, this area is for the middle class, and that side of the neighborhood's for the upper class, and the north side and the inner city are for those people who struggle, and we'll help those people. I think part of our help today as a community is to open our neighborhoods and to open our hearts and say that we can help put people back together like Russell and his colleagues do each and every day at Ambrose Place. We as a community and as a city can help put people back together the way they do, and we can do it in our neighborhoods all across the city. So we talk about a need of about 916 permanent supportive housing units. So we need about 21,000 rent geared to income units. We need about 20,000 sort of near market units, and we'll have strategies that I could talk to you about all day to get to those very large numbers. And that's going to take us a while, and it's going to take us serious commitment as a city, as a province, as a country. But this 916 units of permanent supportive housing, you know, we can see the end of that. We can see that number of units being built in our city fairly expeditiously if we all get together, if we commit to it, and if we have a plan to make it happen. And that is in fact what we do. We've gathered together, so I'm going to recognize Crystal Kajenner, who's our Director of Housing with the City of Edmonton, who's sitting right over there. She's working very hard every day bringing together our large housing providers in the City of Edmonton to say, how can we do this as a community, not as one housing provider or another housing provider, all working in silos individually to try and meet this need, but how do we do this all together? Team Edmonton, one plan that names our need, notes that need, creates a plan for that need, and works very collaboratively and firmly and insistently with our provincial and federal partners to build those units, not 20 years from now or 15 years from now, but how about 5 years from now or less, we could build 916 permanent supportive housing units in our city. How about that? So in order to do that, it takes all of us. So this is what I talk about when I talk about a call to action, not just for the City of Edmonton, but for all of us. It's what I kind of describe as speaking loudly with love. Is that we have the ability as a community, all of us, to speak loudly with love. So what we need is your faith communities, inside your walls, during your worships, when you're having coffee, at your house meetings, to begin to talk to each other about how do we speak loudly with love. We know the numbers, we know the needs. The city is trying to do everything we can in terms of setting policies in place, providing land, working with the province and the federal government to get the money we need to build those units. But what we need from the community now, and particularly from the faith community, is a louder voice. So when proposals for housing are made and they come to City Council, we need you there to speak to those proposals, to say, yes, I will accept and welcome these people who need to be put back together into my neighborhood. We need you to come to council and speak loudly with love. I think when we wonder about tough times provincially and federally, all the challenges we have with our economy, and priorities have to get made and remade again, we need you to speak to our MLAs and our MPs, all servant people who want to help, and I know this, but to speak loudly with love that this remains even when the economy dips and funding reprioritization has to happen, that this does not get reprioritized, that this remains a funding priority. That's what all of our faith communities, not just speaking to council, but speaking to the province and the federal government have to do as well. It's about speaking loudly with love. And I want to close by saying that we are here to act out of our power, the power that we've been given in a great community, in a great city that offers so much, to use that power to speak up for people in all areas of the city who need housing. And this is the relentless spirit that I think is in this room, is in our city, to make sure that every member of our community, for real, gets a house and gets a home. Thank you so much. And I got so excited about saying what I just said, I forgot to give recognition to my good friend, Councillor Knack, who's here and is an incredible advocate for this issue on council as well. So thank you, Councillor, and thank you all of you for being here.